Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about letting go with love, how you can begin the process of cleaning up your estate, decluttering, in order to make the process easier for your family when you pass. So I am April Harris Jackson. I'm the owner of Graceful Aging Legal Services. We have a great team here, and our estate planning practice does wills, trusts, powers of attorney. We also do conservatorships and guardianships for minors and adults who are unable to manage their own affairs. And of course, anything that kind of runs the gamut of that. So probate, benefits planning, benefits applications, all of those things that I don't like the term elder law, but that is the legal industry practice term. So that is what we do. If it is something that you should probably talk about, think about as an adult, but maybe want to avoid, that's probably something we do. So today's goals are understanding the benefit of decluttering as part of an overall estate plan. And maybe it's even not decluttering in the traditional sense. It's just kind of cleaning up and beginning to think about what happens to your physical possessions when you're gone. So, what does decluttering have to do with your estate planning? For most of our clients and people that we talk to, their goal is really to make the process of estate planning easier. When they pass away, they want it to be as easy as possible for their family to get the affairs in order, to not take a lot of time or spend a lot of money doing it. So really they're trying to just make it easier for their families. And that is where decluttering, thinking about your physical possessions, comes in. Because, minimalism has been all the rage for the past decade or so. I know Marie Kondo was big for a few years, still is in some circles. We are a big fan of a book called The Swedish Art of Death Cleaning. It might be The Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. And we'll put that in the notes for this webinar. But really what it is talking about is, what are the things that your family will actually want? And what are the things that you currently use or will continue to use? And if it's not something that falls into those categories, let's rethink whether you really need it in your house. So, can't your family just take your stuff? So let's talk a little bit about how property passes through probate. So we talk about probate assets and non-probate assets. So probate is everything that is not covered in a trust. So in a trust, you may have an assignment of your personal property, but then your trustee still has to deal with all of the things that are in your house: clothes, furniture, kitchen stuff, knickknacks, that trophy you won in 4th grade, high school yearbooks, all of those things that, definitely have a very special place for you, but your family may not want them. Beneficiary designations for things, these are usually things like life insurance, retirement accounts. These are cash. These are, or maybe not liquid yet, but these are cash. And then rights of survivorship. These are usually in real estate, but can also be in bank accounts. So if it doesn't fall under one of these categories where it has a beneficiary designation, it has a right of survivorship so that somebody else also owns it with you, or it's not part of a trust, then it goes through probate. Now, again, If it's part of a trust, if you've assigned your personal property to a trust, your trustee still has to figure out what happens to it. Your trust should say what happens to it and how your trustee can deal with it. But you need to kind of think, do I want my family to have the option to collect things? Do I want everything to be sold? What do you want to have happen? And talking to the people who would, presumably inherit these things. So this is just kind of an excuse to give you a picture of my dogs, honestly. That's Bear and Bella. But all of your personal belongings, if they're not in trust or have a beneficiary designation or jointly held, so your piano, your china, your plants, all your outdoor garden furniture, cleaning supplies. I don't know if you've ever been to an estate sale. We love estate sales for the purpose of kind of being environmentally friendly when we have to furnish things. But at the same time, it's things that the family usually did not want or things that somebody is downsizing from. Vehicles are another one. Thinking about, especially if you tend to have an older vehicle or a vehicle that, maybe you have a vehicle that's, kind of a sentimental classic car, doesn't get driven every day. Who do you want to inherit that? And does that person actually want it? Who's going to take care of your pets? Sorry, Bear's barking in the background. So think about all of these things that will remain in your living space when you die. Or, things that may need to be collected from somebody else. Let's say that you loaned out a lot of books. Just everything you own at the time that you pass is stuff that your probate estate, that your family will need to deal with. So kind of think through each room. What's in your bedroom that you can't take with you? So furniture, clothes, you probably have a lot of, I know I have a lot of books. We have dog crates and which would go with the dogs, of course. Even the bathroom, you think about, okay, well, I've got linens, I've got medicine, I've got extra toiletries. I've got cleaning supplies. I have, all of the things that are in your house that you don't necessarily use on a day-to-day basis. Probably, unless there is a very good reason to keep them, you could consider letting them go. And we'll share with you some good resources of places to donate them to, sell them, depending on what your goals are. So all of these spaces should be considered for clean out. And the good news is, if you are thinking about this now, you have time. Reasons to declutter, if you at some point need to move, you're probably going to be moving into a smaller space, and so you'll already have less things. Think about when people move, they're like, oh, I got to get rid of all this stuff before I pack the boxes. This is just what you're doing at a more leisurely pace. And also, you may never have to move, but you'll have less stuff in case you ever do need extra room in your house. A lot of times, if we are planning to age in place, we may need to think about mobility devices and making sure we have room for those. Maybe another family member will come live with us to help out, or out of necessity for themselves. Lots of things that could happen in the future, even if you are continuing to live in your home. If you live there until you die, then decluttering now, giving away or donating or selling things that you no longer need or will not need, reasonably within the next year. Now, if something, you just really love it, talk to your family about where you want it to go. So for example, I have a family member who really loves Christmas, like multiple trees in some rooms, loves Christmas. Nobody is going to suggest depriving her of her Christmas trees. But what we might want to do is say, you know, hey, is there a special friend that you have? Is there a special organization or a church, or what do you see happening to all of these Christmas trees when you're gone? You know, if a family member wants them, that's great. But I don't have room for 17 Christmas trees in my house. That's just not my style. So having a thought for where these things might go and having a label and making sure that your family knows where they're supposed to go is a win. If you know, whatever you end up doing, knowing where these things are supposed to go or having fewer things to actually clean out lets your family spend less time doing the clean out when you die. So if you're renting, it's going to save money because you're not going to be paying rent. Your family's not going to pay rent just so that basically they're storing your things for an extra month or 2 months or 3 months, depending on how many things you have. I have seen, you know, people who basically were collectors and their families have had to rent their apartments for many months while the family, you know, arrange time around work and family obligations in order to clean out that space. If you are owning your home, if you own your home, of course, if you have a mortgage on your home, your family is going to have to figure out how to continue paying that mortgage. There might be cash money in your estate, there might not. If you own it outright, at some point a tax bill is going to come due. But if your family is planning to sell your home, or maybe they're planning to keep your home and rent it out as a rental property, this will allow them to clean it out faster, which is especially important if they're planning to sell it. You want them to be able to kind of keep an eye on the market, get the best sales price, and part of that is having people be able to look at the property. If your family needs to make any adjustments, maybe clean out the landscape, do a little touch-up painting, things like that, it's easier to do without things in the space. It's less time your family has to spend transporting things back and forth. They may even, if you have a lot of things, you know, they may need to rent a van. They may need to rent it for more time, the more stuff you have. Depending on what you have and how much it's worth, the fewer things you have, the fewer chances your family has to fight over those things. Especially if you have already said in a written document, such as your will or a personal property memorandum, who something goes to. So you probably don't want your grandchildren fighting over your cookie jar. So go ahead and pick which child gets that if they want it, or just say, hey, nobody gets it. The cookie jar is going to, you know, the baker's closet charity for people who bake bread for the homeless, or whatever it is that you care about, and however you want that to work out. And again, if you are thinking about this now, you have some time to go room by room, and just kind of look at, okay, well, what needs to be cleaned out in my pantry? You know, when's the last time I cooked with breadcrumbs? When is the last time I ate peanut butter? If you don't remember the last time you made it, it's probably not part of your regular routines, and maybe it's time to let it go. So tips and tricks. Start early and take your time. if you get rid of just a couple of things a day or organize a few things a day, it can really add up. I know it can seem really overwhelming. I'll admit my house is a mess. We are working on this. But also trying to kind of be like, okay, well, if I haven't picked up my knitting needles in 10 years, yes, I love knitting, but realistically, if I ever just decide, if I decide I want to go knitting, I want to start knitting again, I can grab some needles and yarn pretty easily. I don't need to keep bundles of it around when somebody else could potentially use it for the good of our neighborhood or our community. Decide what items are worth keeping. So again, if you haven't used something and it's not something like, a snow shovel that you may use once a year and you don't want to have to potentially not have one, then certainly keep that. But if it's things like that just sit in a closet, maybe it's Halloween decorations and you haven't decorated for a couple of years, or kids' toys, but you don't have any children in your household, or kids' toys and you do have children in your household, but you have way too many toys for the few children that you have. You can sell, donate, and discard things that, aren't going to be passed on. Just because something isn't valuable to you anymore doesn't mean that somebody else can't use it. We always want to try to be as environmentally friendly as we can. And there are lots of great options that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Consider the wants and needs of your loved ones. So if you are leaving your estate to your children, again, talk to them and ask them, do they want your china? Do they want your bedroom furniture? Do they have a place for any of these things? All of those are important things to think about on their end when they are cleaning out after the death of a loved one. But at that time, they may not be thinking, okay, I need to get rid of all of this stuff. I've got so much time to do it. It just adds pressure. So having less stuff to go through, less stuff to decide what to do with, makes it easier for them. And so that is a way that you can really help beforehand. If there are things that are particularly valuable or need to be protected, so, we're talking maybe valuable artwork or jewelry or firearms, make sure that those are safe and that somebody knows where they are and has an idea of their value, so that it's not like, oh, well, mom's got all this artwork, we're just going to put it in an estate sale. If, God forbid somebody sell a Picasso in an estate sale, that's kind of the example we always use as a Picasso, but chances are it wouldn't happen. But if you own something like that and your family doesn't know that you have it or that it's valuable, you probably want them to get the value out of that, or to keep it, and you should express that wish to them. For important documents. So, things like your power of attorney, things like your home insurance, things like anything that your family would need to close down accounts, to know how much money was in those accounts in order to claim that money. You want to make sure that your family has those records and can access them easily. And nowadays, the easiest way to do that is with digital format. There are all kinds of things that you can use to make that available to them. We have special software that we are happy to make available to you if you're interested. But just putting your documents in a place where your family can reach them, even if it is really just saying, hey, kids, when I die, you need to go to these 2 banks and you need to contact this financial institution about my retirement account. Making sure that they don't miss anything. So now a personal property memorandum is something that you can use to give property to your family within your will. It's basically a list of things you want people to get. So you would say, I want grandchild 1 to get the cookie jar. I want grandchild 2 to get the toaster oven. Whatever that situation looks like. The good thing about a personal property memorandum, and the reason we love them so much in our practice, is that you can fix it yourself. You can revise it. Let's say that, you initially left the cookie jar to grandchild 1, and then you learned that they hate cookies. They're never going to use the cookie jar for its intended purpose, and you want to give it to grandchild 2. You can just rip up that personal property memorandum and make a new one. You don't have to go back to your lawyer. You shouldn't have to pay anything more. You can just do it yourself. Now, the keys to this is that it does need to be signed and dated in your handwriting. It should be kept with your original will. When we go to probate, we do have to have your original will. And so if you have done a will and you don't have this as part of it, look for your will and see if it allows for a personal property memorandum. We are happy to provide you with one. If you are in the process of creating a will, ask your lawyer about this and make sure you get extra copies of the personal property memorandum in case you want to make changes after you fill out your first one. So I hope that this was helpful. Everybody has different estate planning needs because everyone's family looks a little bit different as far as, what your children need, what your spouse needs, what your grandchildren needs, what your assets are. But universally, most people create a plan for the purpose of making their family's life easier. And so letting go of things is one way to make your family's life easier because you are letting go of things so that they don't have to. They are already mourning. They are already grieving you. And the physical things from your life can be really hard to let go of when they don't have you around anymore. Obviously, you don't want to take everything away from them, but think about what's truly important. Think about, maybe some items that have special memories attached to them. Maybe a rolling pin if you and your child made cookies together, or when my grandfather died, I took jackets because we had gone for walks together, and he always had jackets. Just think about what is special about that relationship. What do you want people to have, or ask them what they would like. And so try to incorporate that into your personal property memorandum. Or if it's not something of significant value and you're not using it, go ahead and give it to them. I hope this was helpful. We would love your feedback about if this has been helpful and other topics that you would like to see. So I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching.